It began with a whisper. The kind that spreads like wildfire in Hollywood. Late one night, entertainment blogs started posting mysterious headlines. Dakota Johnson's private secrets exposed. Insider reveals hidden truth about the 50 Shades star. And the most shocking of all, Jamie Dornan caught in the middle of Dakota's secret past. At first, fans thought it was another cheap publicity stunt. But by morning, it became clear. This wasn't ordinary gossip. Someone had leaked personal information from inside Dakota's close circle. Fragments of private messages, old emails, and even journal entries that seemed to expose a side of her no one had ever seen. The headlines were brutal. Dakota's double life, her secret fears and forbidden feelings. The public devoured every word. But buried in the chaos was a detail that changed everything: Jamie Dornan's name. His name appeared more than once in the leaked material. In one alleged message, Dakota had written, "Jamie understands me in ways no one else does." In another, she reportedly confided that, "Our bond was never just acting." Within hours, the internet erupted. Fans who had spent years shipping the on-screen couple suddenly felt vindicated. "We knew it," they wrote. Others accused Dakota of crossing a line, disrespecting Jamie's marriage, and reigniting old rumors that had haunted both of them since 50 Shades of Grey first premiered. Jamie Dornan, who had been filming overseas, woke up to chaos. His phone buzzed non-stop. Messages from his publicist, his manager, and even old friends asking if the rumors were true. Amelia Warner, his wife, reportedly found out at the same time the rest of the world did, through the morning news. For Jamie, it was like a bad dream resurfacing. He had worked for years to move beyond the image of Christian Grey. Every interview, every film choice, every quiet retreat with his family had been about building a life separate from the franchise that defined, and nearly consumed, him. And now, in one night, it was all unraveling again. The tabloids wasted no time. Paparazzi camped outside Dakota's home, while others surrounded Jamie's family in the UK. Every photo was sold, every gesture analyzed. Headlines screamed, "Amelia furious. Jamie torn between two worlds. Dakota's confession breaks Hollywood silence." But the truth was far messier than the headlines suggested. Dakota Johnson had always been private, mysterious, even. She rarely spoke about her personal life and kept her emotions guarded behind calm, witty interviews. But insiders claimed that the leaked materials painted a picture of someone deeply human, someone struggling with pressure, heartbreak, and the suffocating weight of fame. One email, supposedly from the period after 50 Shades Freed, described her exhaustion. "People think I'm fearless, but I'm breaking inside. I miss the simplicity of working with people who really saw me." The email ended with a single line: "Jamie was the only one who looked past the noise." When that quote hit the internet, everything changed. The public no longer saw Dakota as a glamorous movie star. They saw a woman caught in her own story, and Jamie Dornan suddenly became part of that story whether he liked it or not. Hollywood insiders began speculating. Was Dakota's confession about Jamie? Was there something real between them all along? Some reporters hinted that Jamie's distance from her in recent years hadn't been about professionalism, but guilt. Still, there was one chilling part of the leak that no one could ignore. It mentioned an incident during the filming of 50 Shades Darker, a private moment where, according to the anonymous source, Jamie comforted Dakota after a breakdown on set, and something changed between them that night. No one could verify the story, but it was enough to reignite the fire. Talk shows debated it, tabloids twisted it, fans dissected every behind-the-scenes photo like detectives hunting for clues. Through it all, Dakota stayed silent. She disappeared from social media. No statements, no denials. Just silence. And the longer she stayed quiet, the louder the noise became. For Jamie, the silence was worse than the headlines. Friends say he felt torn, angry at the invasion of privacy, but protective of Dakota at the same time. After all, no one else knew the truth of what they'd shared: the late-night rehearsals, the emotional exhaustion, the years of defending each other against endless judgment. By the end of that week, Jamie had stopped answering calls. Paparazzi caught him leaving his house, face pale, eyes tired, as he told reporters, "There's more to this than people think." It was a simple sentence, but one that set off a whole new wave of speculation. Because if Jamie Dornan wasn't denying the rumors, was that because they were true? The question echoed across social media, across talk shows, across millions of fans who had spent years guessing. But the real secret, the one Dakota never wanted anyone to know, was still hiding in the shadows. And only Jamie knew what it was. Days passed, but the chaos refused to fade. Every hour brought new headlines, new accusations, and new, exclusive sources, claiming to know the truth. The world had turned Dakota Johnson's privacy into a public battleground, and at the center of it all, unwilling, unprepared, and undeniably affected, was Jamie Dornan. Then, out of nowhere, Dakota finally spoke. She didn't do it through her team or in a polished statement. Instead, she sat down for a quiet, intimate interview. One camera, no makeup, no glitz. Her eyes were calm but tired, the look of someone ready to stop running. The interviewer began gently, asking, "Dakota, do you want to talk about the leak?" There was a pause, then a small nod. "I think people deserve the truth," she said softly. "But not the version that's been sold to them." For the next 10 minutes, Dakota explained what had really happened. The so-called leak wasn't the result of betrayal or scandal. It was the work of a former assistant who had stolen private files years ago, hoping to sell them for profit. The emails and notes had been edited, twisted, and taken out of context to make her look reckless. And then came the part that silenced the room. "There was a reason Jamie's name was in those messages," she said quietly. "Because at one point in my life, he was the only person who understood me. Not as an actor, not as a co-star, but as a human being who was completely lost." She went on to describe the emotional pressure during the 50 Shades years, the judgment, the objectification, the loneliness that fame brings. "Everyone saw the glamour," she continued, "but no one saw how it broke me. Jamie did. He saw it all." According to Dakota, the leaked line, "Our bond was never just acting," wasn't about romance. It was about survival. It was her way of acknowledging the trust that had kept her sane when the spotlight became unbearable. When the interview aired, the world changed its tone overnight. Fans who had once accused her of betrayal now flooded her social media with apologies. Hashtags shifted from hashtag Dakota exposed to hashtag We Stand With Dakota. Even major outlets that had sensationalized the story issued quiet retractions. But while the world forgave Dakota, everyone wanted to hear from Jamie next. He finally appeared a few days later, not on a red carpet, but in a brief TV appearance to promote a new project. Predictably, the interviewer couldn't resist. "Jamie, Dakota's interview has everyone talking. Do you have anything you'd like to say?" Jamie smiled faintly, his expression calm but full of emotion. "I think she's incredibly brave," he said. "The truth is, what we went through together wasn't something most people will ever understand. We were just two people doing our best in a world that doesn't always care about the truth. I'll always respect her." Those few sentences were enough. They carried no drama, no defensiveness, just sincerity. And that was all it took for fans to realize what this story had been about all along. Loyalty, not scandal. Behind the scenes, Amelia Warner reportedly admired Jamie's response. She knew better than anyone how deeply he valued honesty and how hard it had been for him to navigate years of gossip. "He didn't need to defend himself," a close friend said. "He just needed to remind people who he really is." For Dakota, Jamie's words were a quiet lifeline. She later admitted in a podcast that she cried after seeing the clip. "He didn't have to say anything," she said, "but he did. That's who he's always been, someone who shows up when it matters most." In the weeks that followed, the media storm finally died down. Dakota returned to work, walking the red carpet with her head high. Jamie went back to his family, his calm restored. The two never needed to make a public appearance together again. The mutual respect in their silence said enough. But the story didn't end in bitterness or scandal. It ended in truth. For Dakota, the biggest secret wasn't about forbidden love or Hollywood drama. It was about pain, vulnerability, and the quiet strength it takes to survive in a world that feeds on your weakness. For Jamie, it was about learning that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stand beside them, even when the world tells you not to. Months later, during a film festival in Europe, the two crossed paths again. Cameras caught the brief exchange, a smile, a soft laugh, a hug that lasted just a second too long. There were no words, no interviews afterward, but those who witnessed it said everything about their bond could be seen in that moment. No romance, no scandal, just two people who had once weathered the same storm, and come out stronger on the other side. As one journalist wrote afterward, Jamie Dornan wasn't caught in Dakota Johnson's secrets, he helped her survive them. And maybe, that's the truest story Hollywood will never fully tell.